My name is Claire Pierce. I'm 32, and for most of my life, I've been the family's emergency contact, unpaid accountant, and emotional shock absorber. If my mom could sum me up in one word, it'd be responsible. If I could sum up my family in one word, it'd be expensive. I work as an operations manager for an international logistics company. Shipments, spreadsheets, deadlines. My coworkers joke that my blood type is Excel. Stability is my love language. Maybe that's why my family treats me like a warranty. They call when something breaks. The last Sunday dinner I attended was supposed to be peaceful. Mom had a roast in the oven. Dad sat on the couch pretending the muted football game was more important than anything else. My younger sister Jenna breezed in 20 minutes late, wearing an oversized cream sweater that probably cost more than my entire outfit. She kissed Mom on the cheek, dropped her designer tote on the floor, and sighed dramatically. "Do we have lemon water or just regular?" she asked, like she'd wandered into a hotel. I was chopping parsley. "The sink works," I said. She wrinkled her nose, the same way she used to when I offered to share my Halloween candy because hers was already gone. Mom didn't even look up. "Claire, be nice. Your sister's had a stressful week." Jenna let out a long, performative breath. "You have no idea. My boss was so negative. It's hard being creative in that environment." I smiled thinly and kept chopping. Creative, that's what Mom always called it. Jenna was creative. I was careful. One word sparkled, the other sounded like beige wallpaper. As I reached for the cutting board, Aunt Rose leaned in from across the table. "So, Claire, still renting that little apartment of yours? You're not getting any younger, sweetheart." "Working on it," I said. Mom's wooden spoon tapped the oven door like a punctuation mark. "She's careful," Mom said proudly. "She likes things predictable. She's good with that." Then, with a soft laugh, "Besides, Claire's comfortable. She's not like Jenna. Jenna's meant for more." Jenna smiled without teeth, chin in her hand, like an influencer caught mid-daydream. "I'm figuring things out," she said. "It's a journey." I felt the old sting behind my ribs, the same one that started when we were kids. When I scrubbed dishes for allowance, Jenna got surprises for trying her best. When I saved tips from my part-time job to buy a used laptop, Jenna got a new iPhone for safety. We grew up in the same house, but under completely different weather systems. Dad suddenly looked up from the couch. "Claire, grab the check when it gets here, okay?" I almost laughed. It wasn't even a question. "I forgot my wallet in the car," I said, half joking. Everyone chuckled. Of course they did. It was funny because it was expected that I'd pay, that I always pay. Later in the living room, I told Mom I was considering a temporary relocation. "A project in Dublin," I said carefully. 6 months, maybe a year." She waved her hand, glass of wine balancing gracefully. "Oh, honey, that's not realistic. Your sister needs you right now." "What does that mean?" I asked. Mom's smile thinned. "Don't be defensive. You know how Jenna is. She just needs a little runway." Jenna appeared from the hallway like she'd been waiting for her cue. She checked her reflection in the black TV screen and said softly, "You'll understand when you learn to let go a little." I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger exactly, but that old, heavy recognition. The invisible weight of being the reliable one. When teachers used to say group project, everyone looked at me because they wanted an A without the effort. My family was just an adult version of that. I set the knife down. "I brought dessert," I said. "It's in the fridge." From the dining room, Aunt Rose called, "You're such a sweetheart, Claire. Your parents are lucky to have you." Mom answered without lowering her voice, "Of course we are. That's what family's for." There was a pause, the kind of silence where you're supposed to smile and agree. I nodded anyway. That tiny, obedient nod that keeps everything running. That was the rule. Jenna dreams. I do the dishes. Jenna finds herself. I find my wallet. That night, I drove home with the windows cracked just enough for the cool air to sting my cheeks. My phone buzzed with a message from Mike, my boyfriend, who was working abroad. "Mike, how's Sunday dinner with the Royals?" Me. Taxing. Literally. "Mike, still footing the bill for the kingdom?" Me. "You could say that." He sent a laughing emoji and then, "Mike, you know you don't have to keep doing it." Me. "If I stop, the guilt tax doubles." He replied with a heart. That was his quiet way of saying, "I see you." Back home, I dropped my purse by the couch, opened in my notes app, and scrolled through a list I kept hidden in plain sight. Dates, amounts, and brief notes. And 216, family phone plan, temporary. $96, car insurance. Jenna added last year. 347. Vet bill for Jenna's dog, Daisy. Her non-refundable apartment deposit. Some entries had stars beside them. Debts I knew would never come back. At first, the list was practical. Then it became a diary. Every number was a tiny reminder of how far I'd stretched to keep the peace. Mom always said, family evens out. But it didn't. It just got tidier. The asks came with bows now. Could you just put it on your card for now? You're so organized, Claire. You make it easy. Jenna will pay you next month. Next month never came. I thought about the Dublin offer sitting in my inbox. Housing included, promotion, a raise, everything I'd ever worked for, wrapped up neatly. And yet the moment I thought of accepting, Mom's voice echoed in my head. You're abandoning your family. You think you're better than us. I stared at my ceiling fan spinning slow, hypnotic circles. Maybe I was tired of spinning too. Some nights I'd imagine what it would feel like to live where no one needed me. Then I'd catch myself, ashamed, because good daughters don't dream about escape. Still, that night, before turning off the light, I added one last note under the others. Utilities, parents' house, cancel auto pay. I didn't do it yet, but writing it felt like a small rebellion. A whisper to myself. I could, if I wanted to. Outside, the city kept moving. My phone buzzed again. Mom sending a photo of Jenna and her boyfriend Caleb at dinner. Caption, our future power couple. I looked at the picture for a long time. Jenna's hand on Caleb's cheek, her nails perfectly polished. She looked free, no guilt, no debt, no spreadsheets. I set my phone face down. I didn't envy her life. I envied her permission to live it without owing anyone anything. I fell asleep to the quiet hum of my fridge, thinking about how love, when unbalanced, starts to feel like labor. And I realized something that would follow me for months. I used to think love meant being needed. Now I think it just meant being used. If someone ever made a family tree of financial responsibility, my branch would be made of receipts. By the time I was 25, my parents had my credit card number memorized better than my birthday. They didn't even have to ask directly anymore. They'd just say things like, "You've always been so good with bills," or "You're the only one we can trust with this." Those words used to sound like affection. Now they sound like handcuffs. When Jenna and I were little, she used to dream about being a singer. She once performed in our living room with a hairbrush microphone while I held the flashlight for her spotlight. I didn't mind back then, but the pattern never changed. She kept performing, and I kept holding the light. Through her 20s, she drifted from dream to dream. There was the travel blog that lasted 6 weeks, the bakery internship that ended when she didn't vibe with early mornings, and the wellness coaching certificate that she never paid off. Every failure came with an apology sandwich. "I'll pay you back soon. I just need a little more time. You're lucky you have a stable job." And I did pay. The tuition, the deposits, the car repairs, the emergencies that always seemed to have my name on them. At first, I told myself I could afford it. Then I told myself it kept the peace. Then, eventually, I stopped telling myself anything. Last winter, my company offered me something I'd quietly dreamed of, a promotion and relocation to Dublin. Paid housing, higher salary, a year of travel. When I told Mike over a video call, he nearly jumped out of his chair. "Claire, that's huge. You've wanted this forever." "Yeah," I said, smiling faintly. "It feels like a door opening." "Then why do you look like someone just died?" "Because they'll say I'm abandoning them." Mike leaned closer to the screen, serious now. "You're not abandoning anyone. You're just stopping the bleeding." I wanted to believe him, but guilt has a way of sounding like loyalty when you've heard it since childhood. 2 weeks later, I drove over to my parents' place for dinner. The house smelled like rosemary and old furniture. Jenna was already there, barefoot, cross-legged on the couch, scrolling her phone. Her new boyfriend, Caleb, sat beside her, one of those effortlessly confident types who think saying "good vibes only" counts as personality. Mom adored him instantly. "Isn't he handsome?" she whispered to me in the kitchen. "And he calls me ma'am. Such a gentleman." I glanced at his half-finished beer on the counter and said, "Yeah, polite." At dinner, Jenna announced between bites of mashed potatoes, "I quit my job today." I looked up from my plate. "You what?" She shrugged. "It was toxic. I'm prioritizing my mental health." Dad nodded approvingly. "Proud of you for knowing your limits." I nearly choked. The last time I took a day off, Mom said I was being dramatic. Jenna smiled serenely. "I'm going to take a few months to figure things out. Caleb's being super supportive." Caleb raised his glass. She's meant for big things. The universe has a plan. Mom practically glowed. See, Claire? That's faith. I didn't say it out loud, but I thought, faith doesn't pay rent. After dinner, Mom pulled me aside. Sweetheart, you've always been so level-headed. You know how hard it is for Jenna right now. Mom, she just quit her job on purpose. She needs to find her passion again. Caleb's helping her start something creative. What kind of something? She smiled vaguely, like she didn't even know. A studio, maybe, or a brand. You know how these things work. No, I didn't, because when I start something, I finish it. When I spend, I pay it off. When I make a plan, I stick to it. I could feel the quiet anger pulsing in my chest. Mom, I already cover half the family's bills, I said carefully. The phone plan, the car insurance, even the vet. Oh, Claire, she interrupted, waving her hand. Those are small things. Small things that add up. Her smile froze. You've changed lately. I bit back the words I wanted to say. No, I'm finally noticing. Later that night, lying in bed, I scrolled through my notes app of debt. The total had quietly crossed 5 figures. A whole vacation, a car down payment, a year of therapy. Instead, I was buying my family's comfort, and they were spending it like it was infinite. The next morning, Jenna called. Hey, sis, she began, all sugary. So, Caleb and I found this really cute place. It's perfect for our new business idea. Business idea? I said, still half asleep. It's kind of a creative studio/content space. We just need to get approved for the lease, but the landlord's asking for a cosigner. My stomach dropped. Jenna, no. She giggled, like I was being silly. Come on. It's not like we're asking for money. It's just your name. I rubbed my temples. That's exactly what you're asking for. My name is my credit, Jenna. She went quiet, then sighed dramatically. You don't believe in me. You never have. There it was, the classic guilt grenade. Jenna, I've believed in you more times than you've believed in yourself. Wow, she said coldly. You sound just like Mom when she's disappointed in me. The line went dead. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. My pulse in my ears sounded like the ticking of a clock, counting down to something inevitable. That night, I told Mike everything. Every number, every bill, every manipulation disguised as family love. He listened quietly, then said, Claire, they're not asking for help. They're asking for control. It's not that simple. It is. You've been paying for permission to feel loved. I hated how true that sounded. Days later, the phone rang again. Mom's voice, soft and urgent. Sweetheart, can you come by tomorrow? We want to talk. It's important. About what? You'll see. I knew that tone. It was the same one she used before asking me to help with something small. I almost said no, but the guilt, the oldest trick in her book, worked one more time. As I hung up, I noticed my inbox ping. Subject, offer confirmation, Dublin. I hovered over the word accept. For a second, I imagined the life waiting there, a gray sky over a canal, my own apartment, my own bills, my own silence. Then, like clockwork, my phone buzzed again. Jenna. Can you come early tomorrow? Caleb wants to show you the studio plans. I didn't reply. I just stared at the 2 messages, one offering freedom, the other a new leash. That's when I realized something quietly terrifying. Every time I said yes to them, I said no to myself. Tomorrow I'd find out just how far they were willing to go. Mom's kitchen was always spotless, but that day it felt staged. Too clean, too still, like everyone had rehearsed their roles before I arrived. Come in, sweetheart, Mom said sweetly, smoothing her apron even though she hadn't been cooking. Jenna sat at the table beside Caleb, beaming, a mug of tea untouched in front of her. Dad was at the head of the table, arms crossed, jaw set. It felt like an intervention, but I was the only one who didn't know the script. Mom slid a white binder across the table. Its cover had a cheap printed label, Jenna's Vision Studio. Tabs stuck out of the side. Budget, marketing, investors, lease agreement. Your sister's been working really hard, Mom said, voice bright with practiced optimism. She's ready to start her own business. A studio, a creative space. It'll be huge. Caleb nodded eagerly. We already found a location downtown. All we need is to get the bank to finalize the loan. I stayed silent, flipping open the binder. There were pie charts, some Pinterest photos of minimalistic decor, and words like synergy, inspiration, and holistic community vibe. And then the number, $150,000. Next to it, in neat blue ink, guarantor required for approval. My stomach dropped. You've got to be kidding. Dad leaned forward. It's not a big deal. They just need someone reliable on paper. That's exactly what a guarantor means, I said, keeping my voice calm. If they default, I'm responsible for the entire loan. Mom smiled tightly. Oh, honey, don't be dramatic. It's just a signature. Caleb laughed, like it was funny. It's just a formality. Claire, we all know you're great with money. You've got your life together. It shows confidence to have your name on it. Confidence? I repeated slowly. That's what we're calling it now? Jenna twirled her hair and avoided eye contact. It's not that deep, Claire. It's exactly that deep, I said, flipping the binder shut. $150,000 deep. There was a pause. Mom exhaled through her nose, then tried her softest tone, the one she used when guilt didn't work immediately. Sweetheart, you know we'd do it for you. I laughed quietly once. No, you wouldn't. Don't say that, she snapped. We've always supported you. In what way? I asked. Emotionally? Financially? Because if we're talking about support, check my Venmo history. Dad's voice sharpened. Watch your tone, Claire. I'm calm, I said, and I'm saying no. Mom froze, like she'd never heard those words before. You can't mean that. I love you, I said evenly. But no, I won't co-sign. Not for this. Jenna's eyes welled up instantly. Wow, she whispered, like I'd slapped her. You really don't believe in me. Jenna, belief isn't a bank loan. You're so tight, she said bitterly. You hoard money like you're scared to live a little. Caleb chimed in, smirking. Maybe that's why she's single half the year. Excuse me, I said, my voice rising for the first time. He raised his hands. Relax, it's a joke. Mom jumped in quickly. Let's not fight, we're family. I pushed the binder back across the table. That's why I'm saying no. Because we're family. If this fails, we won't just lose money, we'll lose each other. Jenna crossed her arms. You make it sound like I'm some irresponsible kid. I met her eyes. You quit your job last week and posted a TikTok about manifesting abundance. Her jaw tightened. You're cruel. I'm honest, I said quietly. That night, the guilt parade began. At 8:12 p.m., Mom called, her voice thick with tears. How could you talk to your sister like that? She looks up to you. Mom, she's 30. She's sensitive. You have to understand her nature. Her nature? I said. To spend other people's money? Mom gasped softly, like I'd said something obscene. I didn't raise you to be unkind. I didn't realize setting a boundary was unkind. Click, she hung up. Then came Aunt Rose, the voice of gentle manipulation. Sweetheart, she said in a long voicemail, family is about giving and receiving. Maybe you can give a little more this season. God will bless you back tenfold. I deleted it halfway through. By midnight, Jenna's Instagram story popped up. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who hold you back. #toxic family, #financial abuse, #cutting cords. There she was, teary-eyed, tragic, and somehow holding Daisy the dog for extra sympathy. The comments were full of, you got this, and so proud of you for standing up for yourself. I stared at the screen, equal parts hurt and numb. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about rewriting the story, and this time I was the villain. Mike called right as I was putting my phone down. Hey, he said softly, you okay? Define okay. You sound done. That's the thing, I whispered. I think I finally am. There was silence for a while, then his calm, steady voice. Then do something about it, not for revenge, for peace. The next morning, I woke up to a group text. Mom, family meeting tonight. Dad, we expect you here at 7. Jenna, don't make this harder than it already is. Aunt Rose, praying for harmony. I stared at it for a long time. Then quietly I typed, me, I won't be there. I didn't owe them another explanation. Still, my hands trembled as I hit send. Years of conditioning don't break cleanly. They splinter. Within minutes, Mom called again. I didn't answer. 10 minutes later, she texted, if you won't support your sister, don't bother showing up for Thanksgiving. I read it twice, almost laughing. That was supposed to scare me. Instead, it felt like relief. I walked to the window, sunlight warming the floor. Outside, a delivery truck passed by. The logo of my own company on the side. Reliable, predictable, on time. That used to feel like me. Now I wasn't sure I wanted to be reliable for anyone but myself. I opened my laptop. The Dublin offer was still there, waiting. I hovered over, accept. My cursor blinked, steady as a heartbeat. And I thought of something my dad used to say when I was a kid fixing the Wi-Fi or sorting bills. You're the glue of this family. Maybe it was time to stop being glue. Maybe it was time to stop holding everyone together just so they could keep pulling me apart. I clicked accept. That night, my phone lit up with missed calls. Dad? Mom, Jenna, Aunt Rose. I didn't answer. The only message I opened was from Mike. Proud of you, finally choosing yourself. For the first time in years, I slept without checking my notifications. I didn't know it yet, but this was the calm before the storm. Because the next morning, Jenna would send the text that changed everything. It happened on a Wednesday morning at 8:12 a.m. I was brushing my teeth, hair tied up, still half asleep when my phone buzzed on the bathroom sink. One glance, and I knew it wasn't good. Jenna, I'm quitting my job today. You'll support us while I figure things out. No question mark, no hesitation, just a statement, as if my paycheck had her name on it. I stood there, toothpaste foaming in my mouth, staring at the words. Then, calmly, I typed back, "Me. That's not on me." 4 words, a complete sentence, the kind that ends a decade-long cycle. I rinsed my mouth, looked at my reflection in the mirror, eyes tired but steady. For once, my hands didn't shake. 10 minutes later, another buzz. "Mom, banned from Thanksgiving until you sign your sister's $150,000 loan." I actually laughed. Out loud. Not bitterly, but in disbelief. That was their idea of punishment, taking away an obligation I already dreaded. I left the phone on the counter, walked to my desk, and opened my laptop. The Dublin contract was still sitting there, unsigned, but ready. I scrolled down to the bottom, clicked confirm. Start date, Monday. A soft chime sounded as the email went through. It was the quietest rebellion of my life, but it felt seismic. The next 30 minutes were chaos. First, Dad's FaceTime call, then another, then another. When I finally answered, I was met with 3 faces crowding the screen. Mom, Dad, and Jenna, all talking over each other. Mom's voice was sharp. "You will apologize to your sister and fix this." "No," I said simply. Her mouth opened, but I kept my tone calm. "I'm not co-signing anything. I'm not paying your bills. I'm not funding her next phase. I'm done." Jenna's mascara was already smudged, a full performance ready to go. "You're so selfish. You're punishing me for being different." "I'm not punishing you," I said. "I'm setting a boundary." "You've never believed in me," she shouted. "I believed in you when I paid your college books, when I added you to my phone plan, when I covered your car insurance, when I paid your vet bills, when I loaned you money for your apartment deposit." Her lip trembled. "You're keeping score?" "Yes," I said evenly, "because I'm the one paying the bill." Dad cut in, voice booming. "Watch your tone." "I am," I said quietly. "And it's going to stay calm. But I'm done being your guarantor, your salary, or your emergency fund." Mom's voice cracked. "If you walk away now, you abandon this family." "I'm leaving for work," I said, "not war." "You think you're better than us," Jenna cried. I straightened, finding that cool, precise voice I use at work, the one that gets things done. "This isn't revenge," I said. "It's closure." Silence. For the first time, none of them spoke. Then Dad laughed. That short, sharp laugh he used when he wanted to make someone small. "Closure from what? From doing your part?" "From being your plan," I replied. "From being the quiet solution." They all started shouting again. Blame, guilt, accusations mixing like static. I didn't shout back. I didn't explain. When they finally paused to breathe, I said the one thing I'd never dared to say out loud. "I regret not doing this sooner." Then I hung up. I set the phone down like a hot pan. My heart was pounding, but I didn't cry. Across the street, my neighbor was watering his tomato plants. The world didn't end. I made coffee, sat down, and opened a new spreadsheet. Not for work this time, but for freedom. Title: Exit Plan. Each row was a rope I was untying. Remove Mom and Jenna from phone plan. Unlink Jenna from car insurance. Cancel utilities in parents' house still in my name. Freeze credit line. Move savings to new bank. Cancel shared Netflix. Every click felt like cutting invisible threads that had tied me down for years. By evening, my phone was a war zone. 43 missed calls. 142 messages. Aunt Rose. "Sweetheart, talk to your mother. You'll regret this pride." Mom. "We raised you better than this." Jenna. "You've destroyed this family." Caleb. "Bro, masculinity isn't about running away." I blocked him first. At 8:30 p.m., the group chat lit up again. Mom, family meeting, 9 p.m. tonight. Me. "I won't be there." Mom, "You will." Me. "No." Jenna, "I hate you." Me. "I love you. I just won't finance you." After that, just gray bubbles. Mom sent paragraphs about sacrifice and shame. Dad texted, "You'll regret this decision." Aunt Rose sent praying hands emojis. I muted the thread, closed my laptop, and sat in the quiet. It was strange how silence could be so loud when you've lived your whole life surrounded by noise. At 10:17 p.m., a knock on my door. I looked through the peephole. Dad. He was still in his work shirt, red-faced, jaw tight. I didn't open. "Coward," he yelled through the door. My voice was calm. "Boundaries." "You think words protect you?" he spat. I took a breath. "No, choices do." There was a long pause, then heavy footsteps fading down the hall. I leaned against the door, shaking. Not from fear, but adrenaline. The kind that comes from finally defending your own ground. That night I texted Mike. Me. "It's done. I'm leaving Monday." Mike. "Are you okay?" Me. "For the first time, I think so." Mike. "Proud of you. Book your flight. I'll meet you at the airport." The next morning, Mom sent her final offer. "Sign the loan, keep your number, Thanksgiving at Aunt Rose's. Final chance." I typed slowly, deliberately. "No, the only way to stop being the plan is to stop being the plan." Her reply came seconds later. "We won't forget this." Me either. Then I put my phone down, packed a suitcase, and watched the first light hit the wall. No fireworks, no breakdown, just quiet, steady clarity. Sunday came faster than I expected. Mike met me at the airport. His hug was warm, grounding. "You did it," he said. I smiled faintly. "Not yet, but I'm getting there." As the plane took off, I looked out the window at the shrinking city below. All the shared bills, arguments, and guilt fading into clouds. Somewhere between takeoff and landing, I realized, peace doesn't make noise. It just arrives. Quietly, unapologetically, like a sunrise you didn't think you'd ever see again. The plane touched down in Dublin under a sky the color of steel. Cold, calm, and vast, like it didn't care who I used to be. By the time I reached my company apartment, rain had started falling in thin, misty sheets. The flat was small, but spotless. White walls, a kettle on the stove, a single plant by the window. For the first time in years, every bill, every lease, every key belonged to me alone. No shared accounts, no group chats, no emergency calls beginning with, "You're good with money, right?" Just quiet. I set down my suitcase and laughed softly, the kind of laugh that feels strange after months of holding your breath. That first week, I lived like I was learning how to exist again. I walked the canals, bought fresh bread from the corner bakery, and cooked for one. The silence felt awkward at first, like I should be doing something else, solving someone's problem, paying someone's bill. On Wednesday, Mike came by after work with takeout and a bottle of wine. He looked around the apartment, smiling. "You really did it." "I think I had to," I said. "You look lighter," he said. Tired, but lighter. We ate on the couch, the TV murmuring in the background. At one point, I realized I hadn't checked my phone in hours, not once. No alerts, no unread messages screaming for my attention, just peace. By the end of the week, I opened my old notes app, the one where I'd kept every family expense. The list felt like an archaeological record of my past life. Each line was a memory. $216, family phone plan, $96, car insurance, $347, Daisy's vet bill, $1,200, apartment deposit, all of them tied to guilt disguised as love. At the bottom, I typed one final entry. "I will not co-sign chaos." Then I closed it for good. Thanksgiving came early that year, or at least that's what my mom called it in her texts. Mom, "Everyone's at Aunt Rose's. Your seat's still empty." Jenna, "Daisy misses her auntie." Dad, "It's not too late to fix things." I didn't reply. Instead, I roasted chicken and potatoes in my tiny kitchen. Mike joined me, holding up a slice of pizza like a toast. "To family," he joked. "To chosen family," I corrected. We laughed, and it didn't feel bitter, just honest. Later that night, while the city glowed in quiet lights outside my window, I scrolled through my messages again. One new text from Jenna. "Jenna, are you happy?" My thumbs hovered over the screen for a long time before I answered, "Me. I hope you find what you're looking for. I just can't fund the search." She didn't reply, but I didn't need her to. Days turned into weeks. My new job was challenging. Long hours, big projects, real responsibility, but it was mine. I liked walking into meetings where no one expected me to fix their lives, just to do my job. One Friday night, as I was leaving the office, my manager handed me my first solo project report. "Excellent work, Claire. Keep this up and we'll talk long-term contract." I nodded, smiling politely, but inside, something uncurled. pride, maybe. Not the hollow kind I used to chase by pleasing everyone, but the quiet kind that doesn't need witnesses. Mom tried calling twice more. I let it ring both times. Then one day, she left a voicemail I actually listened to. "We're doing fine, sweetie. Jen is working part-time now. Your father says hi. Just wanted to check you're safe." For once, it wasn't manipulative, just uncertain. I didn't call back, but I smiled anyway. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was distance, and distance can heal things time alone can't. Sometimes I'd think about the version of me that used to panic every time her phone buzzed, the one who thought being dependable meant being loved. That woman would have bent herself into 1,000 shapes to stay approved. But now, when my phone vibrated, it was just Mike sending a meme, or a friend inviting me to brunch, or my landlord emailing the rent receipt with my name on it. No guilt, no hidden costs, no fine print. One Sunday, I found myself sitting by the window with coffee, watching the rain ripple across the canal. I thought about that final night back home, Mom's final offer, the shouting, the door I didn't open when Dad came by. I realized something then. Closure isn't a slammed door. It's the moment you stop holding it open. Mike came up behind me, resting a hand on my shoulder. "You're quiet. Just thinking." "About them?" "About me," I said. "For once." He smiled. "That's new." I laughed softly. "It feels new." That evening, I wrote something on a small notepad I kept by the bed. A promise, not a plan. I won't call neglect help. I won't trade peace for access. I won't apologize for keeping what I earn. I won't be the plan. I'll love without paying for it. I folded the note and slipped it into the drawer. For years, I thought I had to earn love by solving everyone's chaos. But peace, I've learned, doesn't need an audience. It only needs space, the kind you make when you stop letting guilt take the first seat at your table. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the curtains. My kettle whistled softly in the kitchen. No chaos, no begging, no guilt texts. Just a single mug of coffee and quiet that finally felt deserved. I thought about Mom's words the night she disowned me. "You'll regret this." Maybe she was right. I did regret something. I regretted not choosing myself sooner. As I got ready for work, I caught my reflection in the mirror. The same face that once flinched at every notification, now calm, steady, unafraid. It struck me how simple survival looks once you stop apologizing for it. I used to confuse being needed with being loved. Now I know love doesn't keep score. It keeps you safe. And as I walked out into the brisk Dublin morning, I realized I wasn't running anymore. I was just free.